Hello there my friends, and welcome to another Dragon's Teacast, where we will be talking about the future of the tea shop. I will most definitely not be able to do everything in a single podcast, so this one will be talking exclusively about the layout I envision. This is not the most professionally made diagram, I'm aware. I've had blueprints professionally made before, but that costs money, so I laid this out myself. This is my ideal scenario, a 40 by 40 room with all the plumbing being where it needs to be. This can be subject to change depending on what I can actually find for rent, the setup of the plumbing and bathrooms, and overall cost. We're going to break this down into 7 segments, which I will be highlighting as I mention them. After we make the general rounds, I will go into more detail for each section. Starting in the top right, we have the manga reading corner. Next to that, this whole big section will be the gaming corner. In the middle, we have tables and general seating. In this corner, we have our teas and displays, as well as a secondary display section up by the manga and gaming corners. Up in the top left, we have a back room, and next to that, we have the bathrooms. And finally, here on the left will be the cornerstone of everything, my Dragon Tea Bar. What do I mean when I say Dragon Tea Bar? I mean this, and we'll go into more detail with that when we come back around to it. First off, the manga reading corner. It'll be a 14 by 14 or 15 by 15 space with a door you can close. Depending on budget and costs, I would like to make this room soundproof so people would be able to read manga or do some studying in peace. Only thing I'm afraid of is some dumb weebs trying to make the sex on my couch. Oh, sorry, gotta make it more public relations friendly. I'm afraid of somebody getting hurt and me not finding out about it. Anyway, back to the plot. The brown thing in the back will be the bookshelf. Then we got a 1, 2, and 3-person couch setup. We've also got a middle round table and a corner desk in case a person or group wants to do some kind of studying or something. I'll even have the room available to rent out for groups for as of now, undetermined price point. Before this next part, there is something I should stress. At this business, I'm going to be both the most charitable and the stingiest person you will ever meet. There is an invisible but unbreakable line between what the store needs to both grow and thrive, and the cherry on top after that. Until we cross that line, be it the daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly line, I will charge you for breathing my air. On the other side of that line, after all the finances are secured, I will allow the air to be free. Obviously that last part is a joke, but the sentiment is real. So for a manga reading corner, you can use it if you first make a purchase, or pay, let's say, $5 to be able to use it for a day. Considering most cups of tea will be cheaper than $5, I think it's a pretty reasonable offer. If you do not like me having such a practice, please stay tuned for the Teacast where I break down the costs of the first year of the tea shop. Then you'll see why I have to be like this. I do what needs to be done, not what I would like to do. Anyway, back to the plot, again. It's basically a mini library consisting mainly of manga. There will be some books thrown in there as well, and of course you can bring your own. In terms of which manga, that remains to be seen. I obviously have a limited amount of space, and I do not want half of it to be dedicated to Naruto and One Piece. There's a high chance I'll have a rotating catalog, as there is so much manga out there, and I would love to be able to introduce people to some of the great ones I have found over the years. In case anybody is wondering, no, there will not be any hentai. Ecchi? Maybe. Something like Domestic Girlfriend would be fine. Something like To Love Ru will never touch my shelf. More details as to why will be covered in the Teacast where I talk about the atmosphere of the store. In terms of taking manga home to read, probably not, but we'll see. I'm not an actual library, and it'll depend on the popularity of the series. If I did have a system, it'll probably require a deposit before you take it home. We'll see after the store opens. Next up, the gaming corner. This section is broken off into 2 subsections. The black screens you see here are going to be computers, and the corner itself will be a big screen TV with all the latest consoles hooked up. This section will be by far the most complicated section to get right, and I'm not gonna lie, there is a chance it may be scrapped altogether, but I would much rather make it work. The TV will be a very big screen, 8K resolution. It'll be something that's definitely worth it. If I'm ever going to do something, I am not going to half-ass it. Go big or go home is the PC-friendly version of how I tend to do things. This section too will cost money to use. I forget the amounts off the top of my head, but we will cover it when we go over the expenses at a later Teacast. I'm still not sure how I will handle buying new games post-store launch. I'm not going to be able to afford every little thing that comes out, but obviously people can also bring their own games. One idea I had was set up a donation box for the game after it was announced, and if enough people donate, I'll get the game, giving the people who donated something in return for like free playing time. There's also the issue of multi-platform releases. As something I found out, some people are quite obsessive over only using one system, especially if it's something with an online component like a fighting game. They will only use an Xbox controller, or they will only use a PlayStation controller. This might be one of those things where I just have to shrug and say I won't be able to please everybody. Other little details for me to worry about: what chairs will I use? I want chairs that people will be comfortable with. It's no good to me if you are uncomfortable and decide an hour later to go home. I want you to stay and pay for more hours in tea, but I also can't have the floor getting all scratched up. That'll be a bridge I cross when I get to it. Ideally, I'm going to let players decide how to pass the controls around, let them set up their own little systems, but if that does not work, I'll have to step in and impose a system. However, I do not expect this to be much of an issue, as I have never seen an issue like that with the gaming community in any of the public gaming places I have been to. For the PC section, that's where things get even more interesting. So one thing I want you to do is, I want you to have an easily removable divider between each PC, in case there's some one-on-one action going on, or friends are doing a co-op. The PCs will be top of the line. The question is, how will I handle the game downloads? Am I going to chance a store-sponsored Steam account and all that could go wrong with the public having access to it? Let people use their own Steam accounts? But then downloading games will take forever. The save files will probably cause a lot of issues with people accidentally saving over another's work. Games like League of Legends or Overwatch will be simple, but I want to take it to the next level with what you can do. That's something that's still being developed inside my head. Finally, and this is very important, and I will be very upfront and public about this, I will not have the godforsaken gamer stench hanging in the air. If you've been to any gaming place at, let's say, a convention, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you come to my store, you will bathe at least enough so others cannot smell you. I am not going to let any of those negative stereotypes through my door, but I'll go into a lot more detail about that in the future Teacast talking about the atmosphere. On to the next section, teas and displays. This section is probably not as solid in my head as it should be. On one hand, the items I have picked out will allow me to showcase a lot of teas in a small space. On the other hand, those items compared to the rest of the store will stick out like a sore thumb. I am speaking in terms of quality. If anyone's seen my spinner at conventions, it'll be using something similar. Obviously it's not going to spin, but that's not the same quality as the 8K resolution TV or a giant wood-carved dragon. So I gotta play the balancing game of space versus quality, aesthetics versus practicality. It'll be an interesting battle, and it's gotta be one which I gotta get it right away. There's no going back. I cannot dump, let's say, $10,000 to have some type of wooden shelving custom made, and then decide, you know what, this is not good enough. But that's my problem. I'll worry about that when we get closer to actual launch date. Moving on, we get the back storage room, but there's nothing really to share with people. Gotta have some secrets after all. Next up is the bathrooms, and let me tell you, these will be the cleanest bathrooms you will ever find. Seriously, I find a dirty bathroom to be such a turnoff to any place I'm ever at, and every single employee will definitely know that they are expected to keep the bathroom so clean they can eat off its floor. And I swear, if someone tries to test me on it, I will make them do it. Laws be damned. Kidding. I don't know if there's some sort of national award for cleanest bathroom, but if we don't win it, every employee is going to do 1,000 push-ups as punishment every single year. On a side note, I need to look at the laws of having employees do push-ups as punishment. I would love to be able to do something like that, but that's more of a personal preference. Next is the general seating, but honestly there's nothing too special to mention here. There won't be too much out of the ordinary, at least for right now, so let's not waste too much time on the basics. And finally, what will be my pride and joy, the centerpiece of the entire store, the Dragon Tea Bar. When I initially planned to launch 2 years ago, I'd be debating the budget of things that would only cost me a couple of dozen dollars. This tea bar? Nah. $15,000 spending limit. And that limit was very loose for me. I remember at one point I was looking at costs of something, and we went up to like $18,000 at the end. I'm like, I know I said $15,000, but maybe I can spare a few. It was a battle for me. But that's neither here nor there right now. Maybe a different Teacast. I even had somebody lined up ready to cut this thing out. So let's talk about this beautiful bar. The first thing you might notice is that it's in multiple pieces. This is so that if I ever had need of extending it, I can add another piece. And also, if something breaks, much easier to fix. Also makes crafting much simpler. By the time this launches, the face might not look exactly like this. I think we've already changed the design of the egg he is holding as well. The bar will be 12 to 15 feet in length, able to seat 6 people. We have the countertop back here as well, where we'll be doing all the tea-making goodness, and there is also a TV up here so we can play anime while people enjoy their cups of delight. This very first design will be modeled after our dragon mascot, which, by the time the store launches, might actually change, but that's more of a behind-the-scenes thing, something I will not get into now. And you know what? Every future store will have its own unique tea bar with its own unique dragon, most likely designed after one of the dragons of our future manga, but that's a story for another time. I don't think I need to get into all the worker details of behind the bar, so I'll leave it at that. So that's the current ideal state of our future tea shop. However, I've slightly been lying to you. I have not actually included everything that we plan to have, because we have some ideas that we think may revolutionize the tea, and by extension the coffee, industries. There will also be a Teacast where I break down the budget, and go into those details here, but I will probably give more hints in the atmosphere portion of the Teacast. So, yeah, that is our current overall layout design. Stay tuned for future Teacasts where we will talk about the feel of the store and how exactly we plan to craft such an experience. There will also be a Teacast where I break down the budget and you all get to have a heart attack along with me as you see just how much all of this is going to cost. The very next Teacast will most likely talk about planned events and other such goodies. Until then, see you next time and buy my tea!